Good morning, good people. Uh, Hope you're having a great week so far. It's a nice Friday. Uh, didn't get a chance to upload my video from yesterday, and maybe I shouldn't have looked at it. I thought I'll have to redo it. Um, I think it was just a busy day. Couldn't do it in the morning. I had to run in the evening, so that became that story. But anyways, today's Friday, the last day of the week. Um, Friday is the second best day. The best day is Monday, because you get a new week, a new opportunity, a new chance. So please enjoy yourselves. And what I like to do on a Friday, especially Friday evening, is just to wrap up for the week and set myself up for the Monday. But in my world, the work is never done. So it is what it is. Anyways, so yeah, we're talking about education. And I'm thinking out loud, right? I'm thinking out loud about solutions for people, solutions for societies, right? Why? Because that's what I'm faced with today, right? As my children are growing up, as my nieces grow up, I have to now think about their education and how do we set them up for the world that they're going to be in 20 years' time, in 30 years' time, right? Not for the world that we grew up in. And so, anyways, I want to just maybe clarify some of the problems, and then look at some of the solutions that are there. So one of the things that we're exploring is, um, like with our toddler, um, teaching him how to read at a young age. There's a lot of resources online that are very helpful, free, and paid ones. Paid ones are good, where you can teach a child to read, and it only takes 15 minutes a day. All right. Now, if you're consistent, you're able to do that throughout the year, and you've already spent 100 hours in a year, right? Which is phenomenal, right? 15-minute chunks a day is easy, and you make it playful, because the idea there is that you're gonna find things that your kids are interested in and put learning in front of that, right? It's kind of like with social media, right? This is where the crowds are going to TikTok. Well, business is going to find ways to put their products in front of those people, right? So as a parent, that's how you're thinking. This is where my child's attention is. This is where my child's attention is. How do I uh, turn that into a lesson, right? But it's got to be fun. It's got to be fun, right? And it's especially for the younger ages, because some of the challenges we have when we look at traditional schooling systems is, for a lot of people, it's kind of like you go to school, you switch on, and when you leave school, you switch off. So learning happens at varsity. I mean, I know people who, when they come up with something, oh, I want to get into property, the first thing they think of, oh, I gotta go do a course somewhere, and they're gonna go to Wits and do a property course or something like that. And I think in today's day and age, you're better off taking a course from a digital content creator, right? Who is in that field, who is doing those things, who's doing what you want to do, right? And there's lots of those. Um, and yeah, you can take those courses. But the idea that learning only happens at an institution, it's just not gonna fly anymore, right? Our kids, when where they're going and where they're growing up is, you're constantly learning. It's a lifelong journey, and you're not learning to cram to just have knowledge, right? You're learning to apply, um, and we need to teach them in that way to say, okay, how do you how do we now make sure, whether your kids are going to a traditional school or an online school or homeschooled, how do we make science fun and engaging? How can we create projects that they can do to experience science, to experience chemical reactions, to experience, electrical engineering and set up a circuit and do things, right? In today's world, with the Internet of Things, you can connect a Raspberry Pi thing to something, to your door, in your house, to a toy, and it interacts with you, right? Um, and your kids can take part of that. There's lots of videos out there. The components are now cheap. You can buy them on Shein, Temu, whatever. So you can do a lot of these experiments. So project-based learning, it's got to be led by the parents. Find time on the weekend or whatever to to do projects, group projects where the kids do it with amongst themselves or with their friends, and individual projects, right? But it's a constant learning thing, and they're applying it. It's tough for parents, right? We have to like dig deep and find it in us to do these things when we didn't grow up with it. That's not what we're used to. So it's not about perfection; it's about the effort. It is hot. So it's not about perfection, right? It's about effort, and it's about consistency. If we're doing this 30 minutes a day, 1 hour a day, right, as they grow older, um, you start to get the hang of it. A lot of people are moving to homeschooling now and online schooling because of bullying, because of, you're just training your child to become an unemployed statistic. Unemployment isn't just a South African thing. It's not just a Southern African thing. You know, the youth unemployment rate all over the world is terrible, terrible, right? These old folks are living longer and they are working longer. They don't want to let go. They don't want to make room. So we're going to have to create our own opportunities, right? And our kids are going to have to do that too. So yeah, I think project-based learning for our kids, and continuous lifelong learning, right? It's a few minutes a day, and learning with the specific outcomes, right? Um, that you apply to something. And I think we're going to have to look at how we can use entrepreneurship as a vehicle for personal growth. I think people can go into a corner somewhere and sort of zen themselves into, I am empathetic or whatever. But when the real world comes, are you actually empathetic, right? Now, in entrepreneurship, you're going to face that. You're going to have to deal with that head on. You can see the impact to your business of being more empathetic, of allowing room for your employees and people that you've delegated responsibility to learn and grow, right? When you actually experience that, you realize empathy is good for profit, right? So entrepreneurship, I like to think of it as self-development in motion, right? I forgot who came up with that, but it was a great phrase that I love. So it's self-development in motion, because a business will not outgrow its owner, right? So if you want your business to grow, you're going to have to grow. And if we're intentional about that, I think we can find ways to integrate our entrepreneurship or side hustles into our family lives. And I am seeing this happening already, which is what sort of gave me the idea to say, oh, this is actually something I should do too. When my clients and some of my wife's clients are working with their children, and they bring their children into the meetings, whether it's a creative space, or in the analytical space, accounting, finance. So you see them bring their teenage kids into it because they're starting this business with their children, right? And things like that. So for people who haven't had businesses to sort of do that, I think for families that have traditions of doing businesses for generations, they already have that one in the bag. That's not even a thing. But for the rest of us, where we're having to really build the structures for that, it's important to be intentional about including our children in that entrepreneurship journey as part of their education, right? So that it's a 360 thing. Those are some of the ideas that I'm swirling in my head. And it's based on this siloed thing about you go to university, you go to school, you go to class, you sit down, you learn, and then after that you switch off, you go drinking, you go partying, you do whatever, right? It didn't do well for me, I'll be honest. um, I was bored, eh? I struggled a lot, because I found that the material was a lot more engaging, but going to class and all that, a lot of times I was bored. When I say bored, intellectually I wasn't being stimulated, because either I knew the things, or if I hadn't studied, that's where maybe I'll get stimulation. Say, oh, I don't know what's going on. So I needed to go at a different pace, and I went at my pace. But I can imagine for other kids, maybe it was too fast, right? For other kids, maybe they were just as bored as I was going to class. And it's the challenge here is on whatever end of the spectrum you are, it's not suited for you. It's not bringing out the best of you. So yeah, I hope those ideas resonate with you guys, and that if it's something you hadn't thought about, think about, or it can help spark some ideas for you and your families and whatever setup you guys got going over there. But yeah, it's a tough one, eh? It's a really, really tough one. We just want to find solutions, find ways to, implement these things at different stages, because there's no answer, there's no playbook. We're making it as we're flying it, right? So I'd like to hear from you parents out there, what you guys are doing, what's working for you guys, and yeah, just to share some of these ideas. But yeah, let's get started on a Friday and end the week strong. And hope you guys have a great day. Cheers.